Okay, but our grade 11 lesson today is actually on development. Now, one thing you must realize, you must say, you may be saying to yourself, I remember these things. All right. Some of these concepts I know already. And yes, you do. Because in your grade 9 geography, you covered a lot of these concepts already. So if you do still have your grade 9 geography books, which I hope you do, and you go over that, you'll find there's so many things that you've already covered. Okay, so it's nothing new to you. So we expect good marks for this section. All right, so let's get going. What we will be looking at here, the terminology associated with development. Sounds familiar? Grade 9A. The concept of development, the economic, social, and demographic indicators of development. And we're going to look at examples, all right, to illustrate the difference in development. All right, just simple examples. We'll be coming across factors, etc., in later lessons. Okay, so very familiar to you from grade 9. All right, but let's go on. So we should be getting good marks. All right, let's first of all look at what is development. All right, and first of all, let's look at the United Nations Development Program, how it defines it. It defines it as leading a long, healthy life, to be knowledgeable, so good quality of life, to have skills, to have access to resources, all right, whether it's your needs, you understand, housing, again, education, sanitation, institutions for study. I know I'm repeating myself. All these things to have a decent standard of living, all right, to live comfortably and be able to participate in life of the community. You can actively participate. So it includes all that in terms of even the quality of life of a person. Okay, that's a bit long, eh? Let's shorten it a bit. Okay, so simply put, development is a process of change that affects people's lives. It may involve an improvement in the quality of life as perceived by people undergoing change. All right, how they perceive it. Remember, that is development. Okay, you may get situations where somebody, all the learners in the schools got laptops. That's development. But let's take a poorer country moving from informal settlements with shacks to low-cost housing is a development. So it varies. It depends on how we perceive development based on what we had and what we now have. That is development. So it's different in terms of perception, all right? But we all want to head through where we have all the skills, etc. Okay, right. Now, importance of development, I know I've added this on, but it's necessary to know why development is important, all right? Okay, why do we measure this development and why is development is important? It determines the level, to determine the level of development. You understand? Okay, to determine the level of, where are we now? Where should we be? Where can we be? All right, to determine the average quality of life of the citizens. Okay, what's the quality of life? It's low. How could we up it? Because it makes us start thinking, eh? All right, makes us start thinking. All right, can you see why I've included this? Identify areas limiting development. Now, why is it? What are the factors? We are not processing enough goods. We're selling our raw materials. So let's make a change. So we develop strategies to handle the problem to improve development. I've taken this from grade 9, all right? But it does bring out a significance. So now we say, hey, let's invest in processing our raw materials so we'll need more skills, we'll train more people. Can you see it? So development is not just a theoretical thing that we just learn and give in exams. It makes us think. And in future years, maybe you will be involved in working and developing the country. I hope so. You are geographers, all right? Can you see here it talks about human resource development? That's a big thing, eh? All right? We tend to focus on other things, but like infrastructure, which is important, but we need to develop our human resource, develop our people. You understand? That is very, very important. We can have the technology, you understand, but we need to develop the people. You understand? Use the technology also. Okay. Development indicators is going to be so important as we go through these sections. What are development indicators? They measure the level of development. Can you see it? With regards to the country's economic, social, and institutional growth. All right, in terms of economic, how much money in comparison to others. We measure how much money we made, the GNP, the GDP, gross domestic product, gross national product. We measure it to see where we stand. Okay, social, you understand, the health of the people, the death rate, the birth rate, you understand, all these things we start looking at, the institutional growth of infrastructure, institutions, whether it's universities, colleges, whatever, you understand, we do all that. And generally, it's a numerical measure, okay, of the quality of life. Can you see here? We have GDP in US dollars, all right? We have per person GDP, okay? We look at all these things. We look at the figures, all right? Later on, we'll be doing the Gini coefficient. We look at the figures, all right? The number of years in schooling, we look at figures. So I'm not going to go into detail in all this, but we give exact or sort of average figures for each thing, all right? And that's how we work through it. So it's numerical, which makes us easier to analyze it. And of course, again, by measuring it, it compares the level of development. Okay, why we here, who's there, who's developing, or LEDC, less economic developed, who's more economic developed, how can we improve? We look at all these statistics. And again, there's 3 types: social, economic, and we also look at environmental. But we are not going to look so much at environmental yet. We're going to put it as a factor. All right? We can look more at demographic indicators. These are the stats. Okay? Now, example of indicators are gross domestic product, human development index. Don't worry about the explanation of this. It's going to come to you now. So don't stress, all right? The indicators will be explained in the presentation, okay? Right, let's go on. Now, economic indicators is our first one. We're going to do economic, social, and we're going to bring in the demographic indicators, all right? What does this do? It looks at the economic development of the country, the economic development of a country, the finance, the money we're earning, you understand, the average income. All this is economic. Remember the impact, you understand, the impact. Like you look at the per capita GDP, the average for the people across the country. It impacts on the social, obviously. If it's higher, you have a better social life. So they don't work independently, but they work hand in hand, All right, this is the most common method of measuring development, all right? where we look at the financial situation. Of course, the money makes everything happen, eh? All right, not total happiness always, it's other issues, but it makes you be able to afford things. Okay, so the first one we look at is the gross domestic product, also known as the GDP. I told you we're going to cover this in more detail now. This measures the value of goods and services produced within a country's borders. So if it's South Africa, it's within South Africa, not outside. Okay, so it's within the country. What's goods and services produced? And it's by citizens and non-citizens. So in South Africa, it's by South Africans and people who came into South Africa from other countries. Okay, that's your GDP within the country and by citizens and not citizens for a specific period. Okay, like in many cases, a year. They measure it for each year. You understand? And how much you can see whether it's improving or it's decreasing, whatever. Then gross national product, GNP, measures again the value of goods and services produced only by a country's citizens, only by South Africans. Okay, but the difference here now is not only by South Africans, it excludes the non-citizens, but it's produced both domestically and abroad. So South Africans producing in the country and outside the country for a specific period. Again, generally we find a year. For each year it measures so they can compare. So we have these two, all right? Now, what we must note, learners, is that these are used to indicate the size of a country's economy, all right? Generally, always used for development, but the size of a country's economy, not necessarily how developed it is, eh? Okay. I'll show you examples just now. All right. The GDP is the main indicator. More than the GNP, the GDP is used. All right. But let's bring in another concept. Per capita gross domestic product. All right. Or GDP as it's known as. What is this? It's a country's economic output per person. And it's calculated by dividing the GDP of the country by its population. So we say this is the amount earned, so many $1 billion, maybe South Africa 500 billion. I'm just giving an example. We take the number of people in the country and divide it. Okay, and that gives you an average income. Okay, it's not the best, but it gives you a better idea of how developed we are, the quality of life that people are living. So it's actually a better indicator of economic development. All right. I want to show you an example here. Let's take China. $12.24 trillion, 15.4% of the world's wealth there. It's huge. You understand? And second to the United States. All right. But remember, China has, I stand to be corrected, but maybe more than 1.5 billion people. Large number. So if you take you maybe in your house, you have maybe 20 people. Wow, big family. All right. And you earn 80,000 rand. If you divide it by the people, it'll come to 4,000 rand per person. Okay, let's take your neighbor. Your neighbor earns 40,000 rand. You understand? And he has maybe 2 people in the family. Okay, or let's put it 4 people. Let's make it a bigger family too. And he earns 40,000 rand. Now, if he divides it by the 4 people, okay, it comes to 10,000 rand per person. Okay, so you may earn 80,000 rand, but with your 20 people, each person gets, you understand, 4,000 rand. Your neighbor earns 40,000 rand, and you divide it by his 4 members, it comes to 10,000 rand. So his average is higher. So do not be fooled by the GDP, which huge, it depends on the number of people. That is what I'm saying. But if you look at the GDP per capita income, you'll notice China doesn't even appear in the top 10. Can you see it? Doesn't appear because the average income is much lower. Okay, so that's also a factor in development that we must remember. Okay, we must remember that, eh? Very, very important. Right, let us go on. Now, other economic indicators, the Gini coefficient. All right, nothing dealing with those fairy tales. The genie comes out of the lamp. This is our geography. Okay, now it represents the income inequality or wealth inequality within a nation. All right, it shows maybe there's a lot of there's rich people and then there's very poor people, people facilities, people no facilities, etc. So we work on that. Now, what we have here, a score ranges from 0 to 1. 0 shows full equality and 1 shows no equality. So watch out, some indices are different. So if you're getting a score of 0, it's totally equal. Of course, it's difficult to get a score of 0, but a score closer to 0 is excellent. You understand, because it shows more equality. There's not extremely rich, extremely poor, etc. Okay, and 1 shows no equality across the country. You understand? No equality. Okay, example, South Africa, we have very rich people and a lot of poor people. The development is not properly spread across our country, not properly. And our score ranges from 0.660 to 0.696. It's more towards the 1, not right at the 1. We're not that bad. You understand? But it's more that side. Can you see it? So in terms of inequality or equality, there's a challenge. And that's how the Gini coefficient is worked. Can you see higher scores in the less economically developed countries? Can you see it? In terms of 0.65, etc. And then as we move through the developed countries, we find there's better equality, where the scores now go towards 0.35, 0.25, etc. Okay, there's more equality in the more economically developed countries. Then another economic indicator is structure of the economy. All right, what do you mean by structure? You're going to come across this in grade 12 also, learners. Exactly the same things. Now we have a structure where we divide it into different activities, okay, like primary activities. All right, this is extracting or harvesting products from the earth, such as your basic foods, your raw materials. Examples are agriculture, mining, forestry, fishing, like these young ladies. They're very happy because they're eating healthy with those vegetables. Therefore, they're smiling. That is the farming, which is primary. It's planting crops, you understand, getting basic foods from there. This man, the strong man here, is mining. All right, he's taking out raw materials, so that's primary. So I need to go through these sectors in order to appreciate how it involves development. All right. Then we got secondary activities, which is processing, that is manufacturing or transforming raw materials into products or goods. This young lady, all right, is sewing clothes. Got the cotton which was farmed, now it's sewing. You understand? Yeah, they're using the iron and steel. Okay, first it was iron ore, it was developed into iron and steel, and they're manufacturing the cars. This is secondary. Can you see? Iron ore to iron and steel, food manufacturing, which is not the basic now. You take the food and you make cereals with it. It looks slightly different now. You take the sugar cane, you make sugar. Textile manufacturing, like the young lady, all right, motor vehicle manufacturing. This is secondary activities. Okay, then we go on. Then we have tertiary activities. And we know this is the provision of services. Okay, that's education, yeah. Teaching is a service. The health department, public health safety, not just health department, public health safety, they're offering a service to make sure things are safe. All right, with those people. So it's a wide range. This is very wide, from commerce to administration. Commerce is all the businesses, etc. Administration, you understand, to transport, because that's a service. The construction may be building, but then roads offer a service to people moving around. Financial, you understand, your banks, etc. Real estate, your activities, your selling of houses, personal services, businesses, education, health, like hospitals, etc., social workers. So there's various, eh? Right. Then we have quaternary. Before we just had 3. As the years went by, this grew, eh? This is getting, processing, and sharing of information. All right. This is quaternary. It involves things like research, which is very important. You understand, for development, okay? Because you research new things, you come up with new ideas to improve development for machinery, whatever. And then we have things like sharing of information, GIS, geographic information systems. You should know it by now. All right, how information is shared and manipulated. You understand, where you can draw up your maps, you can find areas that are good, you can observe things, all right, through digital stuff. Okay, so that's your quaternary. And now what we notice, by looking at the number of people employed in different economic sectors, gives us an indication of the level of development. We look at these two here, learners. All right, less economically developed country, more people employed in the primary sector. They still getting the raw materials. So there's not much exports of processed goods. You understand, raw materials may be exported because most people are employed in the, I do apologize for that. What am I looking at here? I'm looking at this one and not the UK. My apologies. I'm looking at Kenya here. Most of them are employed in the primary sector. But look at the UK. Let's get back to this one. Made my job easier because now I don't have to draw my yellow line. And look at the UK. Most of them are involved in the tertiary. You understand? The institutional, they're building technology, and technology is helping with industrialization. Processes are speeding up. In fact, if you look at certain things, computers are just making the cars. Humans just press a button and the computer hands come and sort things out. So they're growing in research, technology, with quaternary service, tertiary services. Therefore, they are more developed. So more economically developed countries, people are more employed in the tertiary sector, which shows more development. Okay, can you see how it was important for us to go through the sectors in order to get to that conclusion? Okay, then social indicators. Again, learners, this is grade 9 again, all right? But we're revising it. It measures the well-being of the people in terms of social needs, such as access to adequate shelter, services, education, healthcare. The list is endless, all right? And the ability to take part fully in society and all that is offers. So the quality of life of the people. Okay, and once again, you look at it, you know, you find all these more economically developed countries. Can you see with regards to literacy rate? Can you see how high they are compared to the less economically developed countries, which are lower. And you see they sit around here. The dark blue and the light blue down there shows us it's these countries, especially these ones are all above 95% literacy rate. And how much development, if you got skills in your country, you understand, you are developed. So it looks at social indicators, okay? There's various social indicators, all right? We're gonna just go through a list here, all right? What we're saying here is some demographic indicators from which social indicators are derived. Remember, social indicators are derived from demographic, which is statistics, all right? Like birth rate, the number of babies born in a country per 1,000 during a year, all right, is higher for less economically developed countries, all right? The death rate, the number of deaths per 1,000 of people in a country, is also higher for less economically developed countries because they don't have full birth control, the need, and death rate, the health facilities are not that good. You understand? So less or higher death rates, which affects development. People die. All right. The quality of life is poor. Infant mortality rates, the number of newborns dying under the 1 year of age divided by the number of live births, obviously multiplied by 1,000, but that tells you the number of people dying under 1 year. All right, that's the main focus. And of course, again, it'll be higher for less economically developed countries because of lack of facilities and lower income, etc. Okay, but here again, learners, I'm giving you a full thing. If you know the number of newborns dying under 1 year of age, that is fine for us. All right, life expectancy, the total number of years a person is expected to live. All right, and you know obviously where it'll be lower. It'll be lower in the less economically developed countries because their health facilities are not as effective, right? And if it's low, you understand, the development will be low because people die earlier, means they're not as healthy, etc. Population growth rate is another one, rate at which the number of individuals in the population increased in a given number of time. Again, it's higher for less economically developed countries. You understand? People just grow, and sometimes they need people to be born so that more people can work with lower incomes, and adding together, it makes more sense for them. Okay, can you see I'm bringing in all this grade 9 work, which can help you to understand these indicators. We're not tatam a chance, as I always say. Take a chance and leave out some concepts. What if the examiner decides to test you on this? All right, if I look at this, the infant mortality rate, you can see it here, all right? And the blue shows you the developing nations. Can you see? Much higher. And this is the developed nations, the MEDCs, all right? And you can see it's much lower, okay? In each year, it's much lower compared to that. Look at this, the blue and the green, the blue and the green, the blue and the green, much lower, okay? Other social indicators, eh? Again, they're more favorable in developed countries. They're better off, like poverty, okay? Indicates the percentage of people living below the poverty line with very small incomes, access to basic services, you know, sanitation, clean water, piped water, etc. The services available necessary for healthy life, such as clean water and sanitation, they affect development also, because the quality of life is affected, and it's more in the less developed countries. Access to healthcare, okay, count statistics such as how many doctors there are for every patient, okay, so that's access to healthcare. And of course, there'll be more doctors to patients in a MEDC country. Risk of disease, it calculates the percentage of people with diseases such as AIDS, malaria, tuberculosis. And obviously, again, it will be higher in the LEDCs because of lack of, not actually high quality, general high quality medical care, etc. And again, it affects the quality of life. Again, it affects development. All right. Access to education measures, this one here measures how many people attend primary school, secondary school, and higher education. And you'll find as you move up, the LEDCs have a far lower percentage of people attending education, whether it's high education, secondary school, etc., compared to the MEDC. So their development is affected because you don't have a proper education. You can't get into a proper job. You lack necessary skills. Not that you're not intelligent, all right, but these are things that affect your development. Literacy rate, the percentage of adults who can read and write. You understand? And in developed countries, because the development is high because almost everyone can read and write. It's sometimes 99 or 98 or 99.8%, right, compared to the LEDCs. And it affects your quality of life. It affects your development. Access to technology includes statistics such as percentage of people have access to phones. You understand? Mobile phones, television, internet, all these things help you, whether it's with your studies. Right, you notice when COVID had coming, those who had internet facilities, etc., were able to learn online, etc. Okay, compared to others, and the development was happening. And of course, it's lower in LEDCs. Gender equality compares the statistics such as literacy rate and employment between genders, and we find there's a greater gender inequality in LEDCs, okay, compared to the MEDCs, where it's closer. Not totally there. We find women are still being disadvantaged, okay, but it's closer. So there's more development. And this shows you social indicators. This is these young, cute little people here. You understand, they're very adorable, but they lack the facilities. All right, LEDC countries. How much development will they face or they will be able to get, you understand, if we don't remove them from these conditions? You can see from those eyes, there's a huge amount of intelligence here, beside them looking so cute. All right, but unfortunately, that's what happens, okay? Whereas on the other hand, opportunities are here. You can see the quality of life is higher. Strong chance, you understand, that this young lady is going to get into skills development. She's going to move up in life. And of course, development is greater. Okay, then we come across the Human Development Index. I've seen this Human Development Index being called an economic indicator in certain references. I've been seeing it called a social indicator. You understand? What is this? The Human Development Index measures the level of human development. All right? That's what it does. It measures. Now, it has three key dimensions: the long and healthy life, social, you understand, the access to education, and a decent standard of living. It's about economic also, you understand. So I would consider it a mixture of both, you understand. So it includes social and economic independent indicators, and it's more dependable for working out level of development, you understand, because it brings in both factors. Can you see it? Right, now watch out for this one. It ranges from 0 to 1. It works the opposite from the Gini coefficient now, with 0 being the worst quality of life and 1 being the perfect quality of life. Can you see it? All right, it's opposite. Just be careful. Now look at this, learners. Can you see it brings in the gross national income per capita, the money earned? Can you see it? But it also brings in social issues like health, you understand, education, all right, schooling, all these things, life expectancy. So it brings both, You understand? So that's what makes it even more reliable. You can get a better indication. Of course, no one will be totally zero or no one will be one. Okay, but MEDCs will be more towards one and lots of LEDCs will be more towards zero. Okay, and showing development. Right, let me just go on in my computer. Then demographic indicators. Demographic indicators are population statistics, the figures. It's the figures you look here, or it gives you exact figures in terms of age-specific death rates. Can you see it? And they draw graphs. You can see less developed countries. There's high in terms of that. Can you see it? Low, but it's all dealing with figures. Can you see it? All across, even at 75 plus, less developed or higher, and gives you a figure. Can you see it? Okay, so it actually deals with statistics, numbers. A social indicator is derived readily from a demographic indicators. In fact, the economic indicators also, because these are statistics, but social indicators like population age structures, mortality rates, sex ratios, children-woman ratios. You understand? Infant mortality rate, life expectancy, death rate, literacy rate. It comes from statistics. So it's demographic indicators that give you a good idea about these things. Okay, dealing with statistics. Then, of course, let's just summarize again, because we do need, I know you've done more economically developed countries and less, but we need to look at it again just to have a review over it so that you haven't forgotten. I know you did in grade 9. It's a term referring to a country that is developed or highly industrialized. Highly industrialized. Okay, lots of technology use, tertiary activities, factories, whatever, but it's highly not dependent so much on the primary sector, although the primary sector is important, but they process their goods, they sell them at higher prices, make big money, all right, in which in the most people have access to healthcare and education, etc. Most people. Now, we look at it here, it includes most of Europe, North America, parts of Latin America, and East Asia. Okay. Now, if you look at this, Mr. Brandt, he actually put a north-south divide line. And if you look at it carefully, you'll notice this is where the MEDCs are found. The more economically developed countries are here and less economically here. There may be in between here some countries that are more economically developed, etc., or newly industrialized countries, all right? But generally, this is the trend. What Mr. Brandt has done, shown us in his line. So we can say that most of the more economically developed countries are found in the northern hemisphere. Okay? Let's go to other concepts. Less economically developed countries, the LEDCs. Okay, they are low-income countries confronting severe structural impediments like obstacles. Impediments means obstacles, all right, structural, well, it's infrastructure, etc., all right, to sustainable development, to maintain the development over a long time. They have enough resources, using the resources wisely, so there's left for the future. You understand? Human sustainable development, all those things. But you find many of these LEDC countries are selling their raw materials and not processing that much. Of course, of various difficulties. You understand that they experience lack of proper education, markets, whatever, domestically. These are problems. So these are obstacles they have. And by selling raw materials, they're not getting much. If you sell processed goods to other countries, you're going to get more money. All right. So they are highly vulnerable. They're at risk to economic and environmental shocks. In terms of economic recession of the world, who gets worse is the LEDCs, because they don't have that capital backup. Whereas if the COVID hit, you find people unemployed during that time, you understand, and during the COVID time, America can send off trillions of dollars to support the people, but many LEDC countries can't. They don't have the money. You understand? Okay, environmental shocks. hurricane hits America, they got money, they support. Less tragedies. But if it hits places like Bangladesh or whatever, massive disaster. You understand? Because they don't have the infrastructure and the support. So they have generally low levels of human assets, okay? In terms of people's income, their savings, whatever. You understand? And even their skills. Okay, not because they're not intelligent, but they haven't been given the opportunities. Okay, and includes most countries in Africa, Indian subcontinent, parts of Latin America. All right, lots of them are in the southern hemisphere. Okay, not all of them, because the Indian subcontinent is in the northern hemisphere, but lots of them are in the southern hemisphere. Now, we do need to note a point, learners. We can't just have LEDCs and MEDCs. We also have NICs, newly industrialized countries, newly industrialized. Because what happens here, these are countries whose economies have not reached the MEDC. They're not in the more economically developed, but they have gone above the LEDC stage. That means they've gone above the less economically developed. They are places like China, Brazil, Mexico, South Africa, Malaysia. I think I like China there twice, eh? All right, India, Thailand, Philippines, Turkey, many countries. Let's look at this, lads. Let's look at Kenya and the people employed. You'll notice most of them are employed in the primary sector. 74%. Tertiary sector, 15%. Can you see? So it's mostly dealing with extraction, raw materials, not much processing, etc., or technology to use. Okay, that's clearly an LEDC. Let's look at the UK. Tertiary, 79 compared to 15. All right. Primary labor or employment, 3% compared to 74. Can you see? Doesn't mean they're producing less agricultural products, but what we see here is that they highly industrialize using technology, etc. So they can even produce more food than they need because using all the different harvesters, the machinery, this is clear cut. But let's take Malaysia. Is Malaysia same as this? No. Tertiary activities is 45%. Here it's 15. Primary activities is 15%. Here it's 74. So Malaysia is not like Kenya. On the other hand, tertiary is 45, UK is 79. Primary is 15, UK is 3. So they're not at the more economically developed countries. They're sort of in between, heading towards the MEDCs. And this is what we call the newly industrialized countries. They're coming for places like China, India, as I said, big money earners in terms of GDP, etc. So they're moving forward. You understand? Okay. So that explains that, right? Now there's some here. I'm just using two. United Kingdom, can you see? That's your MEDC. Bangladesh, that's your LEDC. All right. Look at the per capita income, learners. For United Kingdom, the per capita GNP, you understand, is $35,000. Bangladesh, 1,600. Massive difference. Literacy rate, 99% in the United Kingdom. Bangladesh, 47%. Massive. All right. Infant mortality rate, 5 per 1,000 in United Kingdom. Look at Bangladesh, 58 per 1,000. Lack of healthcare or proper healthcare for all. You understand? They still will have private hospitals there, but many people won't have those facilities of top quality hospitals, etc. Per doctor, look at this, 2.2 per 1,000, 0.26% per doctors rather, per 1,000. Newspapers rate, 332 per 1,000, 6 per 1,000 for Bangladesh. Can you see the difference? TV ownership, 1,100 per 1,000. Means that some families have 2 TVs or more. You understand? Look at this, 7 per thousand. So we talk about just the TV. Imagine the internet facilities, etc. There's massive differences, and it affects development. Life expectancy 79 in UK, 60 in Bangladesh. Look at this. People employed, all right, in the primary, in farming, all right, in the farming, 1.2%, okay, in farming, all right. Now look at here, 45%. So just let alone the farming only, we have 45% involved. It just gives you an idea how development will be affected. All right, if we look at these statistics that were given to us here. All right, it's a massive, massive difference, learners. I thought I'll bring that to your attention. Now, obviously, we have to do a little activity. All right, just a simple one, just for us to reflect on what we did for this lesson. Okay, let's look at what's given to us. They gave us 3 countries, all right? Kuwait, Bolivia, and Bangladesh. And they gave us statistics. Per capita is 18,086, all right, in terms of dollars. Bolivia, 757. Bangladesh, 145. Massive difference, eh? All right, massive difference. You can already start looking at it. What it say? Kuwait, MEDC. Bangladesh, LEDC. Birth rate per thousand, 36, 40. Not much of a difference. All right, I think they like making babies in Kuwait also. Percentage living or in the urban areas, 58. Bangladesh, 11. Massive difference. Life expectancy, Kuwait, 69. Bangladesh, 47. Massive difference. All right. Agriculture percentage, 17%. In agriculture, 71% for Bangladesh. I'm just using these 2 as an example, all right, because I highlighted the questions on them. All right, differentiate. First question says differentiate between the concepts development and development indicators. Let us just be careful, if it says differentiate. All right, I just took the one straight from the notes to illustrate something to you. Okay, let me get my face moved a little bit. All right, development is a process of change that affects people's lives. Okay, and it may involve the improvement of quality, but if you have this, it is fine. All right, now watch a word, whereas, because you want a differentiation. Development indicators measure the level of development to a country's economic and social and institutional growth. Can you see it? I must have that whereas thing. All right, must have it, because it's showing a comparison. Don't do them separately. Maybe the markers will give you, but why take a chance, learners? Show a comparison. Okay, that's what I want to demonstrate to you. Yeah, state 2 importances of measuring development straight from the notes, learners. Can you see? It shows you the level of development. It shows you areas or challenges that are experienced in which areas when you look at development indicators. And it also allows you to look at strategies. Then why is that area low? You start investigating. There's so many taken straight from the notes. Identify an economic and social indicator. All right, we can see economic, GDP. Can you see it? Is there? Social indicator, birth rate per thousand. All right, life expectancy. Economic, telling you how many people are involved in agriculture. All right, can you see? Any 2. All right, classify Kuwait and Bangladesh as either more economically developed or less economically developed. All right, and there again, Kuwait, more economically developed. Bangladesh, less economically developed. Give reasons, you can use anything. Social or economic. You can see the GDP or GNP per capita for Bangladesh is 18,086 and For Bangladesh, for Kuwait, and for Bangladesh is 145. Bangladesh is much lower. Involved in agriculture, you can say Kuwait 17%, Bangladesh 71%. Can you see it? All right. Life expectancy for Bangladesh, for Kuwait is 69, Bangladesh is much lower, 47. Can you see that's what you give? Okay. Give reasons for your answers to question 4. I got one more here. A positive social indicators results in good development. Explain this. All right. Of course, we're looking at the quality of life and the productivity of the people. So when I talk about positive social indicators, if they good, you understand, like for instance, GNP per capita is high, the life expectancy is good, you understand, or even the literacy rate is good, you understand, which tells you they have lots of skills, okay, and they're living a better quality of life, therefore they'll be more productive, there'll be more technology, there'll be more technology in industrial areas, there'll be a higher level of industrialization with all the skills resulting in good development. Can you see how we relate those things, learners? And please, you must go well in this. Remember, it's about applying your work. All the notes will be there. Different resources will pop up. Like I've used different resources in this to give you examples. So you should be able to understand and interpret them. All right? Learners, I hope you enjoyed the lesson. All the best.